Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Learning from the Pros. Joining me today is Eden Badani, who is the head of strategy and copy at Cape Agency. Welcome, Eden.
Hi, Sylvia. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's great to, connect outside of LinkedIn.
Yeah, we've been connected for a while now on LinkedIn and like friends from afar. So it's cool to finally come together and join on this episode. So Eden today is going to be sharing her top 10 tips on copywriting for better ad performance. So increase conversion rates, enter dream metric. How can you write more effective copy that breaks through the noise and gets people to take the action that you want? Eden, why don't you just kick us off with a little bit about your background and your experience with copy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a conversion copywriter and a messaging strategist, and I've been in this for over 8 years now, many more years than that with direct sales and marketing type things. But firmly in the trenches now of copywriting. I think vast majority of the companies I get to work with are B2B companies, so SaaS and tech companies, a lot of them. And they all have a lot of trouble with their ads, and I definitely understand it because it's very hard when you're writing you have such a sophisticated product, you have a sophisticated audience, but you need to get the value of what you do across in such a clear, simple, fast, exciting way. It can be really, really hard to do, especially when you're so close to the product itself.
Yeah.
And we forget that there's someone it's not just your boss that has to read the ad. It's actually someone else on the other side that has to see it, love it, and then click on it to actually convert. So it's a tricky process, but there are definitely some things that you can be done to help ease it and make that a lot simpler.
Yeah, I think the one thing just foreshadowing here that people are going to walk away from this episode is intention and how the intention that goes behind what you say and how you say it and the nuance of the end user. So I'm super pumped to get in. I personally want to take a bunch of notes, so let's dive into it with tip number one.
Okay, great. So I think the number one thing that I like to tell people is don't forget you are not actually selling your product, you're selling the click. That is the first thing. You cannot, this is not, especially when you're in B2B, again, you don't have to force everything into the ad. They don't see your ad in isolation. You want to help build up enough of a perception that when people see the ad, they get excited about it. They get motivated to take that click to learn more. It's even if you have a free trial, even if your CTA is really easy, even if the buying process is really easy, still there's a lot of friction. People want to click, then they want to get to somewhere else, they want to learn more, or they want to end up converting. But before you can actually get them to that point, you have to get them to click on the ad to take that next step. We want if we want them to be that confident, we have to always remember, first of all, that first step, that first hurdle is getting them to click on the CTA, on the ad to go through first. So I see so many ads that are trying to push the product so hard, and then they try to do it in the first 150 characters only. And it's like you
Yeah,
don't have enough room to convert someone in 150 characters and a nice looking creative. It's simply not, and your average contract value is $50,000 to $100,000 a year. It's like
it's
it's
not going to
wishful thinking. It's
happen.
wishful thinking, right? Or it's an e-commerce product, okay. Even if unless it's a really, really, really like a no-brainer, it's a $3, it's a $5, it's a $10, $15 purchase,
Yeah.
but still, it's the same idea. And really, you have to make sure that we get through that first hurdle. It's like give them something to motivate them to make that click. So whether it's the active language you use, whether it's the type of CTA that you change up, but make sure that you're giving them something that's going to excite them, empower them through to that next step, because you can go into so much more depth on the landing page, the product page, whatever you've got after it.
Mhm.
But if you don't get them to click, they're never going to see that.
Yeah, 100%. I almost wish everyone has the experience of promoting something on the B2C side. Like, for example, for me, I wrote a book on Google Ads in 2020 and I was selling it and it was a $5 book and I was running ads and like experimenting. It's freaking hard to get people to pull out their credit card and pay for something on an ad. It's a lot of work. So I can only imagine for a $5 product, which was already difficult, a $50,000 product, it's yeah, it's wishful thinking for sure.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Even if there's a free trial, even if there's like, it doesn't matter. There's a certain, people have to be motivated to a certain extent to want to even sign up for that free trial or even book a demo. So what are you doing to help motivate them to do
hmm
that? What is your CTA saying? It's like, read our white paper, or it's like, let's, here's
yeah.
something actionable that you can learn or that you can take away from doing this.
Eden, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. What about the people listening and they're hearing you say you got to sell the click. You're not here to sell your product in an ad. You only have 50 characters. They're like, yeah, that all makes sense. But where their brain goes is, well, then that means it's only going to be clickbait, right? I'm just going to be doing clickbaity things to sell the
Mhm.
click and get somebody to click.
So it doesn't mean that it's clickbait. So I think this relates to one of the other tips that I was going to that I was going to say. It's the tip number two that I was going to say is to actually take something out of your ad instead of taking something in. So like I say, we often try to fill up the ad with, because we have so much writing on this ad, we want to pump it so full of information, pump the creative through so full of so many words, and make the logo bigger, and let's make sure it says we have to put this line in because the CEO said we have to put this line in the ad. But um, it's not about clickbait, and clickbait is absolutely the wrong approach because people will then just bounce on the landing page. It's related to another. I'll get to it. It's another one of the points that I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
here, but relating to that, the second point is like to take something out of the ad instead of something in. So we're often trying to say way too many things. Focus on getting one really memorable takeaway across. Like, for example, you're selling the software that you're selling, it's fast and it saves you money. Great. Okay, there's 2 points of value. But for that, I'd write 3 sets of ads. I'd write 3 ad variations. I'd write one talking about it being fast. I talk one about it saving money. And I talk one that hits at both and see which one seems to perform better. Like, there's the more messages we try to cram into an ad, the less likely they're going to take away the one thing that they really should know and really should that's important. So next
Mhm.
time, then, even if they don't convert, the next time they come across you, they go, oh, I remember those guys are fast, or oh, those guys can save me money. The
Mhm.
likelihood that they're going to remember one of those two things is much, much, much greater than trying to say it's fast and saves you money and it's like,
Yeah,
we could go. That's why we don't try to. We need to focus on getting them through to click. One memorable thing to take away, and that's also going to encourage them to click.
I love
So
that.
again,
And yeah,
yeah,
that's such gold. If you guys haven't gotten any nuggets yet, are you even listening? Just to echo on that point, because I can already hear them. Uh, well, what if I have one messaging angle that's working really really well? It's the fast one, and it beats all the other ones. So am I only going to ever talk about fast now? And my experience is to dovetail on that. It's like one, it takes way more frequency than you realize to have the message truly penetrate the market. And you
absolutely,
can repurpose the message in so many different ways, so many different ad formats, from carousels to text to image to video. And you can say the same thing in a different way. I can say it as like a direct statement, and then I can weave it into a story. Like, you can get creative on how you leverage that angle to
absolutely,
just take it to the market in different perspectives.
absolutely. Just like you said, you can say the fastest thing, like the fastest, again, the fastest whatever, the fastest CRM you'll ever see, or the fastest whatever demo software you'll ever see, and then you could tell a story about like a customer testimonial. Wow, when we showed it, it was so fast to do this. Like, I could not
Mm-hmm.
believe it. Case study this. There are so many things you can do to emphasize. It doesn't mean that you can't talk about those points, and you even should talk about then those additional points on the landing page or the product page, solutions page, wherever it's going afterwards, because then they come through and add through one thing, and then they click through and they go, wow, this is it's not just fast, but it does also
Yeah.
these incredible things too that are also really important to me or important to other people in the company. This is great. Like, it's making it even more of a no-brainer. So instead of trying to tell them up front, like stand there with a megaphone trying to tell them it's A, B, C, D, E, getting through all of these points, start with one, get them to click, and then you can unpack all that value on the page, and then they'll be like, wow, this sounds really cool. Like,
Mm. Yep.
instead of losing focus before they even click through.
I love it. Tip number 3.
Okay. So tip number 3 would have to be would write first and edit later. There are so many times where we try really hard to write an ad, and it's really hard when you sit down and you try to write an ad. Get all the thoughts out that you want to say, get all the concepts, the ideas, the angles, get it all out in a doc, and then start editing. Let it sit for a couple of hours and then go back and look at it with fresh eyes. You will be immediately able to see, okay, well, that's one idea. That can be an ad set. This is another idea. It could be another ad set. This is another idea. If you try to just sit down and just write the thing from beginning, it's going to come out messy and you'll spend forever tweaking it because it's going to be so hard to try and get it right.
Yeah.
Write, like you say, a stupid first draft. Like write a really, really bad first draft. Know that it's going to be bad. This is the pre-writing.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out of your system. When you get those ideas out, then it's going to be very easy to sit back and look, okay, now I see how those things can fit together. Or that would make a great headline, but that would be good for body copy instead of there are so many times like when I write ads, I'll write, and the first line of the body copy actually ends up being the headline instead because the hook was better in the body copy than it was in the headline. But if I tried to sit down and write a headline first and then the body copy, like it's a very, very different experience. It comes out very different. Even if you're using ChatGPT to help you write this, it's the same thing. Get it to spit a bunch of stuff out for you. Leave it, copy that across to a Google Doc, let it sit, and then come and look at it with fresh eyes. Because if you jump in right away and start to try and pull it apart, it can get really difficult. One of the things with ChatGPT and some similar tools, like it's really good. It looks good. It really it looks good. It looks like, okay, it's words and it makes sense when your eyes skim over it. But if you actually settle down to reading it, and if you try even reading it out loud to yourself, you'll see that it's like, wait, it's saying bullet point 1 and bullet point 3 are the same idea, but just expressed different ways. So that's great. So you can use those as 2 separate ads, but don't put those 3 same bullet points in an ad because your prospect's going to go, you're just repeating the same thing in a different way. Yeah. Prospects are not stupid. They're going to get it. So even if you've got ChatGPT or something else helping you during that writing, make sure you let it sit a little bit, come back to it, and then start picking it apart, because only then you'll be able to get to a place where it's really good.
So much to unpack on tip 3. One thing that comes to mind around ChatGPT, and one of the faults of it, I find personally, is it doesn't take comprehension into account. So typically when it spits out whatever it spits out, it's such a higher comprehension level, and like typically you want to write as plainly as possible. So that's one of the downsides of ChatGPT, or you have to like really massage the message to be able to get it down to a lower comprehension level. And I find people often forget that. They're like, I'm selling a technical product to a technical buyer, and it's like, yes, you can incorporate jargon, but at the end of the day too, like you can't forget that when your prospect is scrolling through insert platform, LinkedIn, Facebook, Meta, TikTok, whatever it is, they are not at their highest level of consciousness. I just, from my own personal experience, I'm scrolling. Yep. I'm not 100% attentive. I'm not 100% dialed in. So the more complicated the message, the higher the comprehension level, the less likely I am to just catch on and get the point that you're trying to speak to. And then, delving into your second point is when you're writing this copy and you're not allowing yourself time to just basically unplug and get those fresh eyes, like you said, and write that I love how you said it was the stupid first draft, and you come back to it with those fresh eyes. Oftentimes, a lot of like that revisiting of the copy, in my experience, is going back to your second point, which is like, what can we take out? Like, how can we simplify this hook? How can we simplify this bullet point? How can we restructure this thing and just say more with less, so it's such a key piece, because most people listening to this, maybe you're guilty of this. This is not to point shade or blame or anything. I mean, I've been there myself. I'm sure, Eden, you've been there as well. It's like the lessons relearned over time that, there's like easy to do, easy not to do. And it goes back to that intentionality. Like most people writing copy, they're spending 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like, you know what I mean? They're just like, oh, I got to get this thing out there. Let me just write something really quick and hit publish.
It's really crazy that you're saying that as well. And it's a great point that you bring up, because people tend to over-index on the creative, but the copy is part of that creative. The copy supports the creative. You don't view one in isolation. It's not like they just see the creative, go, oh, okay, I'm going to click. No, they'll read the headline, they'll read the CTA, they will go up and read the body copy. And I think that that relates to point number, we're at 4 now.
We're
I
on
think it
four.
relates to
Yeah.
round 4. Okay, that's actually the point number 4 that I had, which is remember how people actually interact with ads. Each element is a part of the puzzle. So people will stop the scroll because of the creative, but they won't go up and they'll read the body copy. They'll look at the creative, they'll look at the headline, they'll go up to read the body copy, and then they'll look down at the headline again before deciding to convert. So our eyes are going all over the place. So, and that's why a lot of people get stuck. Like I said, I'll write with great body copy, and then the first line of the body copy is what I'll end up using for the ad, because for the headline, sorry, because they look at the creative, they look at the headline, and then they look at the body copy. The headline leads into the body copy, even though one is like in Facebook and LinkedIn, one's positioned over the other. The way that people actually stop and interact with the ads, that user experience, so it has an impact on how we should actually write the copy. So many times the headline is totally disjointed from what the body copy is saying, or the headline is just a repeat of what's in the body copy. But look at the creative. The creative obviously is your starting point. It's what makes people stop. We all know that. But what you say in the creative should then lead to a natural progression. The headline should support the creative, and then the body copy should support the headline. And then because their eyes are just going to go up and down and all around before they decide to convert.
One tactical impromptu question on that. In terms of your experience testing different ads, have you found any one area within the ad had more of an impact versus other in terms of testing?
Usually the headline is usually what, because people also read it more than once. First of all, it hooks them into, usually, again, they look at the creative, they look at the headline. Even TikTok ads, it's like add a headline. That's all you've got, right? It's really that the headline is so much important. But again, the headline needs to support the creative. So you need to write, it's really difficult. You can't write these things in isolation. So you shouldn't have a copywriter and a designer working on different sites completely. You need to have them working together. It's best if the copywriter and designer sit down together and say, okay, let's brainstorm some ideas of how we can take this forward. And they should work together. They should work together on that, or get the copywriter to come up with some general ideas of concepts, suggest what they imagine the creative would be. The creative thing, designer can go and work their magic on spinning up some variations of that while you write the copy to match. But again, people don't see that creative in isolation. They don't see the headline in isolation. Each of those pieces has to fit together in part of the puzzle. So again, so many times it's like the headline is a repeat of what's in the creative, and people then don't even read the body copy. It's like it's a repeat. It's like, I didn't learn,
100%.
nothing's grabbing me. Nothing's okay, so we'll just keep scrolling. So they might have paused for a second, get a little bit of engagement, but it's like, it's nothing.
Or someone will listen to what we're saying right now and they'll be like, oh, Eden said the headline is the most impactful thing for testing, so I'm just going to focus on the headline. And then they completely miss that the creative needs to fit with the headline, and so on and so forth. And it's I forget who said it, but it's like copy is not written, it's first assembled. And it's like the congregation of all these different pieces that come together that then allow you to have this a message that resonates.
Yeah, Eugene Schwartz in Breakthrough Advertising. Yeah, that's absolutely, copy isn't assembled, it's written. It's like he said, you're building a little city made of words for people to come and visit and live in and have fun. So I don't know if building a city is quite the way, but I think it's like, think of it as like, I don't know, like stepping stones across a river. They got the river to cross to get to the other side, to get to conversion. So each word or each element is another stepping stone. So the creative is the first one, headline's the second. I keep going, the body copy is the third, and then the, headline again in CTA. So in order to get to the other side, to get them to click, you have to make sure that you have all these assets supporting each other, because you can't just jump from one to the other. I know how many
100%.
times that people have accidentally clicked on ads when they're in the middle of school and just said, no, I didn't mean to click on that, and click back, and then.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm just for everyone listening on the performance side, getting tactical here, ideally you have a funnel exploration report built to model this. so you can see the drop off. So if you know, just simply put, my click-through rate isn't very good, but my conversion rate on page is good. Well, maybe then you need to focus more on your ads, and now you can start to identify where is the bottleneck so you can improve the throughput. Tip number 5.
Okay, so relating to the previous point about the headlines, the whole purpose of the headline is to get people to read the first line of body copy. That's it. We want people to read the copy. I'm not expecting anyone to see an ad and go, whoa, just see the ad in the headline and want to click and convert. Like, okay, if you're doing a billboard, fine. But even then, if there's no button for them to click and convert, unless you pop a QR code or something in there. We want people to feel confident about clicking through. We don't want to see those mistakes. We don't want to see those drop-offs as soon as they hit the page. We want people to feel confident, like they're making a conscious choice. Like, I feel I really want to click through because I want to learn more about this. It sounds exciting. I might want to convert. The first, so it's not just that the headline is to get people to read the first line of body copy. The first line of copy is getting them to read the second line. The second line should read them to the third line to the fourth line. Like, each sentence has to naturally flow into the last. It relates back again to the other point. I said people trying to cram too much in a message. What you can say drive one message home in 3 sentences rather than having 3 different sentences, each saying something else, like saying again, fast, it's fast, and it saves you money, and it's this number of people that are going to remember the number of, that percentage of messages is like, it's tiny. But again, there's a famous copywriter called Joseph Sugarman, direct marketer, and he calls it the slippery slope or the slippery slide. So it's that each line of copy has to feel like it flows naturally into the other. And so when we write body copy in isolation and headlines in isolation, those 2 things don't match. Yes, we're going to be mixing and matching them for all these different variations when we run our ad sets, but we still need to make sure that they have some kind of way to connect to each other. So for example, when I write ads, so I will write one variation of body copy, and I will write a long version, I'll write a shorter version, so within the different character limits, and then I'll write several headline variations that will go. So when I'm handing it off to PPC team or whoever's going to be running the ads, they know what are the best fits for each different variation. It's not like you have only one headline and one variation of body copy. No, you should be able to prepare several different variations in advance to give the team a lot to experiment and run with.
For everyone listening that's probably overthinking the advice you just gave, and they're thinking, okay, well, what does your template look like when you hand off that copy to the PPC team? Can you kind of just walk through what the layout looks like?
Yeah, it's seriously just a Google Doc. It's seriously, maybe I can share my screen.
I was like, I purposely plugged that because I had a feeling, I knew it was going to be simple, because it's so funny. Like when I speak with people who are great at what they do, and you get to know more about their process, it's like the simple things they just do exceptionally well. So I purposely plugged that. If you'd want, we could totally plug the template in the article for everyone listening, if you're willing to share it.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm absolutely willing to share it. So I'll just give you an example. These were just some things that I was working on with the client. Can I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so it's really simple. This is, for example, LinkedIn ads. So I wrote it for myself just as a reminder at the top of the doc, like really simple headlines. I know the character limits I have to stick to, what the body copy limits are as well, and things like that. So yeah, very simple. So I often have a long version, so we know it's up to that, it's getting up close to that character limit, and a short version as well, and then a few different headline variations. I have a few suggestions here for the creative, and sometimes some suggestions for the text on the creative. So when I come to this as well, and I usually have an ad, or I'll often provide the client with an example of like, this is the concept I was going for each ad. So the ad and then the type of concept. So it helps the designer as well. But then it helps people understand, okay, which creators, which headlines, which things all kind of fit together. So
I love it. This is amazing. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be effective.
No, not at all.
That's what
not
this
at
is.
all. Yeah, it's the same. And if you can reuse creatives from other ones, that's great. But just again, give 2 or 3 variations. And then even then, so even if someone else is running the ads, if you're the marketer and you're writing the ads and someone else is running them for you, you still have you still they still have an understanding. Like the PPC team has an understanding of what you were going for, and they can create some variations of their own,
Mm,
but they'll still stay within those they'll still sit close to the same concepts and the same ideas that you were trying to get across from a brand perspective, from
yeah.
the product marketing perspective. They'll still stay within those, and they won't throw a completely different wild card and someone go, how did get in,
Yeah.
where did that
100%.
come from?
Totally. And the value too of having a copywriter is the PPC folks. I mean, this is my world that I live in. It's like they're usually very what's the word, distracted. They have their hands full, they're in different accounts, they're doing different things. So for them to like truly study your ICP, understand the messaging, review testimonials, like compile pain points, benefits, translate features to benefit, like all that, it's not likely. So that's where like truly having a real copywriter on staff, whether it's like in-house, you're working with someone like Eden, is invaluable.
Yeah, I think that, and to that point as well, the strength of the ads performance, like it hinges so much on the concept. It's not just about randomly, okay, so let's do another UGC ad or another testimonial ad or another white paper ad or another we got featured in Gartner, or another Gartner. Like how many of those do we see already? It's like, so, and those become the bare minimum that you'd expect, I think, from the PPC team. But
Mm,
depending on who you're working with, if you're looking for people who are more executioners, or if you're looking for people who do that strategy and help you work through different concepts as well, that's something that you need to know. Are you happy to come up with creative ideas yourself, or do you want someone to do that for you? So, or get your in-house content writer, or get your copywriter, funnels that ping back some ideas back and forth with ChatGPT. But I find like a lot of ads get stuck in the same loop. But the stronger the concept, the overall concept, again, the
mhm.
creative, copy all have to work together. The 2 pieces of the same pie. They have to work
Yeah.
together in order to do that. So the stronger the concept that you have, the better the ads are going to perform.
It reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It's not what you do, but how you do it that ultimately counts. And
Absolutely.
it's so easy for everyone to just fall into the trap of checking boxes. I launched some ads on LinkedIn. I launched some ads on Facebook. I launched some ads here. I did this. I did that. Like, yeah, I tried short form. I tried, but it's like they didn't really, they didn't show up with that intention. They didn't do what was required to truly stand out in a sea of sameness. Um, Anyways, that
Absolutely.
was, yeah, 100%. Tip number 6.
Okay. So just based on that, I think you saw now in the template, don't be afraid to try long copy. I have this beef, this bone to pick with people that say, no, people don't read online. Of course they don't. They don't read online when there's nothing for them to read, when it's not interesting. Of course they don't read online. People binge watch Netflix series like in an entire night. Like they will not sleep. They will just watch. And so, heck, when I was younger, my sister and I, we once binged the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Let's
Like,
go. Yep.
like seriously, the two, at least 1 and 2 before I went to the movies to catch number 3. So it's like, the people, when you've got someone's attention, you can keep telling them things. But the point is that you
Mhm.
need it. You need to earn their attention. It's not just about capturing their attention, which is clickbaity, but it's like earning their attention. What are you going to give them? What can you give them that's going to make them feel like they got something valuable out of this interaction, no matter how fleeting it was? Did they learn
Mm.
something new? Did you make them feel something? Did you make them stop and think for a second? At least one of those 3. If you make them feel, you make them think, or you've got their attention. You're able to then get a message across. So I think my thing is, don't be afraid to try long copy. So many people push for it's like, keep it on 150 characters. How can you expect someone, an honest question, how can you expect someone to have enough information to make like a purchase decision or to want to convert from, for a complicated product or a services
Yeah.
company? Even, it's not Facebook specifically that I'm talking about here, but it's like, you're not selling plumbing services, if you're not selling this, if you are, it can be really straight to the point. Need a plumber? Call me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
great, fair enough. But you don't say, need a CRM? Call me. Like, it's,
Yeah.
it's not the way it happens. So I've seen so many ads. Like I've hear from clients all the time. Like we didn't think of testing long form ads, but it's like they really work. They re Don't be afraid to push up to that, 600 character limit. And it doesn't look long. I think maybe if someone looks back and references that template, like it doesn't actually look long. It's like a sentence, another space, you add spaces in between the words. It looks like it's like 5, 6 sentences long, but it's more than one sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And if that first sentence of the body copy is interesting enough, they are going to click those 3 dots that say, read more or see
Yeah.
more. They are going to click on that and they're going to keep reading. And not only does that give you more, they're engaging for longer with the ad. So they're reading it. It's purposely they're engaging longer with the ad instead of just watching a video, they're still reading the copy. And it gives them so much more context that you can't in just a headline. And sometimes if you're using a still creative, like gives them so much more context. It gives them, again,
Mm-hmm.
they have more opportunities to build that motivation, to build that trust, to give them a reason to click through.
Yeah.
People will read if it's interesting to them. They won't if it's awful. So
I yeah, I love it. Like mic drop. 100%. Yeah. Yeah, everything you said, I totally agree with, and we've found the same to be true. Like in terms of experiments that we've been testing, um, it just goes back to like what are you selling and how many like just think about all the objections that you have to
oh yeah.
handle if you're operating in a new category. For those who's listening, you're doing category creation, it's even worse for you, I'm sorry to say, because you got to do a ton of education. So that means you probably have to have a section on your landing page that just even educates, like using the CRM example, like how can you use a CRM, you know, what are the, like, just what is it, the fundamentals, the value it brings to the market, and all these things. So 100% totally agree. Do not be afraid to try long copy. Yeah. Tip
Um,
7.
Tip 7. Okay, so and this is one of my favorite tips. So instead of like using just another customer testimonial, using user generated content, which seems to be like that default or that bare minimum is what we'd expect to have some of those ads in the mix. Try to use your voice of the customer as much as possible. So when I say voice of the customer, it's like if no one in product marketing is interviewing your customers, like interview your customers. Really, go and interview a couple of customers, try to get on the phone with them or over Zoom, ask them how did they use the product? Ask them what's the impact. This is not to get testimonial quotes again. This is to understand how they talk about it. So what is that language? And again, it's a conversation. It's going to be really colloquial. It's going to be them telling you how they use the product, how they like it, what benefits are most important to them. Again, if you don't already have someone in marketing or customer success or product doing this, or even if you can't, get on the phone with customer success team and start talking to them and say, hey guys, what are the things that people say? Or even talk to sales. What are the top objections that people have? What do they say to it? Great. Give me I need those things. I can make some ads out of that, preempting those objections up front.
Yeah.
Customer success. What do people say is the most important thing that's about this product? Take that thing, make an ad out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
use those real words that customers are using as much as possible. And so, if you can get customer interviews or transcripts of interviews that someone in the company has done, then great. And we're not looking for NPS like, oh, I gave it a 5 out of 5 rating. It's like,
Yeah.
again, the G2 ratings, the Gartner Magic Quadrant, the thing like it's great and it's more social proof, but it's not the only thing you can do. We
Yeah.
want to really get a lot deeper than that. So, and using your customers' own words makes your ad copy like 1,000 times much more authentic. It's not even things that you can make up. It's not even things that ChatGPT can make up.
I love
Really,
this
I'll
so
give
much.
you an
Yeah.
example. An example. It's not related to this, but related to the landing page that made to I worked with a company a while back, make these beautiful work bags. It's a $700 work bag, full leather, everything like for professional women. So it's definitely, it's definitely not an immediate purchase. But we worked together and we interviewed 5 of their customers, and the things they said is like, I couldn't even believe it. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is amazing. One of the women, for example, she said, like, I bought this bag because I was sick of looking like I was carrying around a mom bag. Like, what do you mean by a mom bag? It's just like any old shapeless, ugly kind of bag that looks like it done its run through. Like, this bag makes me
Hmm.
feel fashionable and stylish. So I'm not saying take that word fashionable and stylish bag and put that in the ad. I'm saying, instead of saying, does your work bag look ugly and misshapen? It's like, does your work bag make you feel like you're carrying a mom bag? Like
Mm.
that's the unique word. That's the unique
Hmm.
content and copy. I couldn't have even imagined that. Like that's what I should have called an ugly shapeless work bag.
Yeah.
But that's what a customer gave us. So that unique phrasing, and we found that spoke to so many people. They're like, yes, yes, of course, I have a mom bag. Like I hate my mom bag, and it's like we stumble. It's like it's literally
Yeah.
conversion gold, and it's just all you need to do is talk with customers, like understand what they were looking at, what was important to them, and then you can create so many ads using their own words to sell to
Hmm.
them.
Yeah. And you mentioned you only interviewed 5 customers.
Oh yeah.
5 customers, and that was enough to get some conversion gold. So for those listening, I mean, sometimes it's only as little as 5. Maybe you only need one, or 2 or 3, but it's better than 0 for sure. And one thing that we do that's helpful, we call it the reality check internally, and it's like a step we take clients through. And essentially, what we do is like one way to get closer to the voice of the customer if there's pushback on setting up customer interviews and things like this is we'll ask them like, hey, can you reach out to your G2 rep, get an export of all your testimonials, and then we'll run all those G2 testimonials through ChatGPT, and we'll have ChatGPT basically like classify like what are the top benefits, the top pain points,
Mhm.
and then based on those top benefits, then put it into different ad angles that we can speak to for testing. And like one example was we had a client where, I mean, the frequency in which customer success was mentioned in the testimonials across the customers was like dramatic. It was like 80%. And when you go to their website, no mention of the customer success team, any of their ads, no mention of the customer success team. So from that one insight, and the reason we call it the reality check is because sometimes clients say, "Oh, customers come to us for this," but then when we look through the
Absolutely.
responses, they're like, "No, no, actually, we come for you for this." So we always call it the reality check for that reason, and that's like an easy starting point for those of you, especially if you're not internal and it's hard for you to get in front of the customer and you want to do these things for your client. This is like an easy third party way to just kind of get the ball rolling for that voice of customer.
Absolutely, absolutely, hands down. Just being able to take that information and you show them, and it's a data-backed approach. You say, look, everyone's talking about this. They say this is why they love you. Let's test an ad based on that. We can run it against one of the variations that you feel is safe, but let's try this. And obviously it will outperform because it's what people are looking for. But then it helps you find so many problems that are not just copy, that are not just the ads themselves. It
Some
helps
real
you find it's
product
like their whole
issues.
positioning. They're positioning their
Mm-hmm.
product one way, so they're not getting conversions. They're not getting enough leads. Sales is bummed. Marketing is bummed. But then you come and you realize the people that do really love the product see it in a totally different light. So you need to adjust your positioning to that light. And then all of a sudden, it's like the floodgates open up, and so people really understand what you are. So they become, leads and turn into demos and turn into closed won deals. So it's
Yep.
exactly like that. Like often you can gain so much information from these actual testimonials, and not just, oh, it sounds really good. They gave us a 5-star review. Let's just use that. Like great, but use a little bit more intent.
Yeah, 1,000%. All right, tip number 8.
Okay, no, right. Wow. Oh, we're going to go through really fast. So this goes back to what you said about the grade reading, the grade reading level. So we are always, because when we're doing with ads, we have a fleeting moment, then we can actually capture people's attention. So often we need to be clear rather than clever. Even if you have a sophisticated product, even if you have a sophisticated audience, we really want to help earn their attention. The easiest way is the fastest way to to get to them. So like
Mm-hmm.
expert marketer Jay Abraham used to say, like sometimes the easiest way to sell a horse is to say horse for sale. So sometimes you do, if you feel
Mm-hmm.
that you're struggling, that you're using too much jargon, or you feel like people are just not clicking on the ads, they're ignoring them, try and simplify that language as much as possible. So really, yes, it might take out some of the brand voice. Yes, it might take out some of that mission or vision driven essence. But when conversion's on the line, and like I said, if sales is bummed, marketing is bummed, and the company is like, we need revenue,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to try at least some clear ads where it's just really, really, really obvious what you have to sell.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the fastest CRM in history. Like, you don't need to say it's like it's faster than the competition and
It's
like just like the
implied,
fastest
right?
CRM you've
Yeah.
ever seen. Yeah, the CRM, the fast, the CRM that works at the speed you wish it would.
Mm.
Something again,
Yeah.
just trying to really
Totally.
generate things off the top of my head. Um,
On that note,
but
it's
again,
it's it's weaving in, like John Carlton calls it, power words. So like weaving in those emotionally charged words to help imply the meaning that you want with less.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I talked about this recently another podcast with a good friend of mine, and we said the same thing. It's like sometimes then you want to say fast, but maybe you should be saying, for example, swift, because maybe swift gives a very different connotation to fast. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the sophistication up a level, but it's still like it's a five-letter word. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
a omni-channel, omni-channel,
Yeah.
cloud-based omni-channel something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've lost people after we said omni-channel.
Like,
So yeah,
how do you feel about the like kind of like weaving it of like kind of like a stress test is when you read it out, like, or you say it out loud. If it just sounds like word vomit, then it's probably not a good, it didn't pass the test and you should simplify the messaging.
absolutely. One of the best things, and it's even difficult. So even if you use like a reading grade calculator, a grade reading level calculator, or things like that, there are things around. Like the Hemingway app is good, but tends to simplify things almost too much sometimes. But the Hemingway app is good, or any other Flesh Kincaid, calculator that's readily available. Just read it out loud to yourself. I think we talked about this briefly earlier. Just read it out loud. You'll find like when you get into the middle of a sentence and it's like, wow,
Yeah.
I paused for breath there. You should put a period there and then start with the next sentence. Like it doesn't have to be grammatically correct, but people are going to read it how you're speaking it. People read the
Mm-hmm.
copy. So finish the set, put a period where you need to pause for breath, simplify a sentence, cut it in half. How would you say it to a friend? Would you say, no, 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 no? Or we say,
Yeah.
we would say it in a much more different way.
Totally. Tip number 9.
Right. Okay. Whoa, we're getting close to the end.
Yep.
That's amazing. It's time's flying by. Okay. So I think tip number 9 is going to be when you do talk about benefits, and everyone loves to talk about benefits in the ads, which is great. It's great. It's tied to that ultimate value. It's the transformation. It's the jobs to be done. It's what they really desire. Tie it back to something realistic. Tie it back to something tangible, where you can. So
Mm.
unless we're trying, like we said, we're trying a really simple ad because ads are not converting when they're sophisticated, right? So we're saying the fastest CRM that you've ever seen. Okay, fine. But where you can, tie it back to something tangible. So not ads like explore the future, or build your future, and it's like, what are you even selling? It's like,
Yeah.
so if you want to go visionary, if you want to talk about like a high level benefit, that's great. Give it some legs. Make sure that idea holds water. You need to have
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to back it up, something practical. So
Yep.
connect it to a feature, connect it to, like, if anyone follows April Dunwood's positioning, for example, she says you take the value, your differentiated value that you have, and you have your features on the other side, and connect back and see how you can draw the lines between
Mm-hmm.
the two, because there'll be multiple features that sometimes all deliver the same value at the same time. So you can say it's fast because of, the fastest CRM you've ever seen, thanks to its 1,000+ integrations. Like, great. So it's not just the fastest team we've ever seen, but there's a reason why it's fast.
Yeah.
And that reason gives people enough context to say, oh, that sounds interesting. I want to learn more. So try to make it tangible wherever possible. Otherwise, it just comes across as so much fluff. And we've seen those ads. It's like transform your workplace, grow your business, win more customers, close more deals. Like it's not that it's not true. Like it's true, but
We hope.
it's very, very, it's so high level that people, it's like
Yeah.
the benefit is so high level that people really struggle to grasp it.
Yeah, and in the age of skepticism, especially if you're selling to marketers, they've seen all the tricks in the book and all this. That specificity is so key. So you create believability. Like to your point, if it's so grandiose and they like the BS meter goes up, and they're like, I've heard this before. I don't really believe you.
Yeah.
Versus like if you can frame it in a way where it's uncontestable. It's like logical, right? Because you've pinpointed back to a specific feature or a specific way of showcasing the feature. For example, the AdConversion site. It takes less than 90 seconds to sign up. Seriously, we timed it. If I had a video of me signing up and it's like time stamped on the bottom left, like no sound, showing you me signing up in less than 90 seconds, it's uncontestable. You're like, yeah, okay, I believe you.
I remember one of my favorite ads was from Fireball a while back, and it was like they said it's the world's fastest demo ever. It's like a 60-second demo, and it was like, oh great, and it was actually even faster than that. It was like 0.02 seconds because that's how fast it took to run a query, and it was like that was it. That was the ad.
Yeah.
It's like it is that fast, and I thought it was so great. Like it's not just telling people how amazing it is. It's like it's all connecting together. You're showing them. You have a proof point that it really is that fast. So when you come back, and again, that's where it comes into. It doesn't necessarily have to be. It's going to be in the body copy, but you can connect it to the creative play then between the creative and the body copy, and see what you can do there. But there are so many. I hope we're opening up people's minds to all the different types of ads like you can run.
Yeah.
I mean,
this
it's
is not
really, like
an
you said, it's
episode.
really
This is
easy
a
to
masterclass. Yeah, people
Oh, and
are.
it's really
I
easy to,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, go
people
ahead.
like reach out to Eden, share some love on LinkedIn. All the value you're getting. Yeah, I mean, so many nuggets. And to your point, yeah, I totally agree. And I hope people are getting that paradigm shift right now where they're like, wait a second, they're starting to see things from a new light and a new perspective. It's amazing to me. We're on this soapbox right now. Just one last point on this tip is the amount of SaaS companies that don't show anything in the product. It's unreal to me.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like you just a Loom video recording and some cool sections, you can do a lot of great things. And the more that going back to this whole point of credibility and believability and specificity, it's like if you can tie the benefit to the feature, fantastic, that you're already ahead of the game. But if you can take it a step further and actually show them,
Yeah.
it just adds so much more to support to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Like, again, prove it. Everyone's thinking, so what? So prove it. And that comes to my last topic, that last tip as well. It's like, so what? You said the reality check. It's like it's the so what. I get the thumbs up. It's the so what test. So you sit back and you read it. You're looking at your ad. You look at your ad copy. First of all, I would highly recommend, as you're experimenting with it, using like an ad mockup software. So there's tons of like free LinkedIn ad mockup, tons of things. Play around with it. It helps you see the ad, how your audience is going to see it. So even if you don't have the creative, you'll be able to see how the headline looks with the body copy, what the CTA is. It really gives you such a fresh perspective, and it really helps for that editing phase as well. So you think the ad sounds great, put it in a mock-up, double check it if you can, because they hear that extra step. It helps you cut out all those words. Like, wow, that looks really different when it's in when it's in an actual ad versus what I thought it was in a Google Doc. So switch back and forth if you can. Using the template obviously helps, but switch back and forth between that when you can. It makes such a huge difference to the final product. But that idea is just, sit back and be totally skeptical. Like I said, prospects aren't stupid.
Mm.
People aren't
Mm-hmm.
stupid. Clickbait, okay, might pull them through, but then your bounce rates will be high and conversions on the landing page will be low. We don't just want high conversions on the ads, we want high conversions on the landing page too, or the product page or whatever comes after, where we want this ad to be that stepping stone that gets them across the river to convert. So, every time you write something, you're looking at that ad, so you cross your arms and say, okay, so what? Try and pick it apart. See, where is this fluff? If it's a sentence is total fluff, take it out.
Mm.
If
Yep.
something is missing, saying that, so what? If something is missing, it's like you talk about something that's really high level. Okay, but do you have a proof point to back it up? Put a proof point in there. That's what's missing. Sit back and look again. Just that so what is so helpful for picking out all those tiny things that can throw people off. Because be honest, at the end of the day, people are, like I said, people are looking at the sum of everything. This is the total sum of the creative, the headline, the body copy, how it all fits together. They're not just looking at these things in isolation. So there's maybe one word out of place, okay, but if there's 5 words out of place, if there's a run-on sentence, if there's a really obvious
Mm-hmm.
mistake somewhere in the middle, the formatting's not right, all of these things almost send triggers to people that it's like, how can I trust you? Can I trust you with my click?
Yeah.
So sitting back and going, so what? Well, it's like trying to look at that through that third person point of view, looking at it as the customer would look at it. It's like, what feels off? What doesn't feel strong about this? Make that point stronger. And then it's going to be far more likely to convert.
I I have so many things to unpack from that. So many gems. One thing that just came to my mind that is just something I recently experienced, and for those listening, it's so easy to get caught up in optimizing for the margins. So even taking it back earlier to just headline testing. After a certain point, it's like, yeah, you can optimize and you can keep optimizing different headline variations and all this, but sometimes you're better off just ripping it and just testing brand new concepts against each other. Radically different looks, feels, variations. And it's so easy to just get caught up in that where you're just optimizing on the margins. It's like incremental, very small incremental improvements versus just ripping the whole thing out and trying crazy cool ideas and like hitting it from different perspectives and telling different unique like perspectives and angles and all these different things. Because at the end of the day, it's like that's the only thing the person sees in their feed is the creative, the ad, and the experience that they go to.
Absolutely. And I definitely agree. And I think that's one of the things that's hardest about conversion rate optimization as a whole is the
Mm.
emphasis on the iterative process. And I do understand, and it is important, but sometimes you get to a point, and I see even companies that really value conversion rate optimization, there's a point that you hit where it's like you've optimized it to the point that or it sounds the same as everyone else, or it looks the same as it, like you're following those best practices, or you are going the right direction, but you've hit a wall, and it's like, do we keep optimizing? Do we leave that running, but then do something entirely different? Let's do a zag. Let's do something in the opposite direction. Throw that into the mix. See how that happens. It's really important to keep those fresh ideas coming because it's too easy to keep opting. It's like maybe we'll change the CTA on this one again. It's like it's nothing to do with the CTA. It's like the whole approach to the ad is
Yeah.
wrong. Like it's not exciting for people. That said, one caveat, I think you mentioned it really well as well before. People don't take into consideration how many times you have to repeat a single message for it to actually sink into people. We will sometimes get frustrated too quickly with our ads. We'll feel like it's low performance, so let's scrap the entire ad. So do a little bit more testing with the ad. If you're seeing some engagement, what are those total overall cues that you're getting? You're getting engagement, like people are spending time reading the ad, they're watching the video, but they're not clicking through. Okay, the creative's good. What can we do to tweak the body copy to get them to the creative seems to be working. It's holding their attention. They're liking something. What do we need to do to fix this up? So pay attention. So it's pay attention to those other signals. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
click through rate. that we're
Yeah.
looking for? What are the other signals that we can look at to help get the message across?
Eden, this has been an absolute masterclass. I'm going to go ahead and quickly recap your 10 tips for everybody listening, and this will be in the article below as well. So tip number 1 was you're selling the click. You're not trying to sell your product with your 50K ACV or whatever case might be. You're selling the click. You're not selling your product. Tip number 2 is to take something out of your ad versus put it in. Never forget that you're editing. You really want to give yourself time, which is tip number 3. Write first, edit later. Allow it to sit. Go get a coffee, get a tea, walk around, just go do something completely different and come back to it later with fresh eyes. Tip number 4 is remember how people interact with your ads. Like put yourself in their perspective and see it from their point of view, how you interact with ads, how you skim the creative, then you look at the headline and how each piece of the copy should build on the next. Tip number 5 was the purpose of the headline is to read the body copy, and really each corresponding line should support the previous one. So it's this slippery slope, as you mentioned. It's just this beautiful, I almost imagine like a water slide. You want this nice water slide going down, and if there's a bump along the way, there's going to be some very unhappy people. Tip number 6 is don't be afraid to try long form copy. Remember, you have to earn the attention. It's not given to you. It's something you have to earn through your words. Tip number 7 is use your voice of the customer as much as possible. Remember, it doesn't take a lot. It can be as simple as 5 interviews, as simple as doing ChatGPT testimonials as a starting point. But I agree, like you should hear it from them because the goal that you get is insane. Tip number 8 is to simplify your language as much as possible. Tip number 9 is to do, whenever you have your benefits, to link it back to something realistic. Remember, in the age of skepticism, that is absolutely imperative. And then finally, tip number 10 is to ask yourself, so what? Review your ad copy and ask yourself, so what? And if you can't sell yourself and you're skeptical on what you've written, you should probably give it a few iterations before you get it out there.
Absolutely. That's
Eden,
an awesome recap.
thank you so much for being here. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you?
The absolutely best place is LinkedIn.
Awesome. We will link Eden's LinkedIn will be in the show notes below as well. And if you're taking on clients for copywriting, also we will have that linked as well, so you can work with Eden. She's too humble. She's not even asking for the plug, but I'm plugging her because she's awesome.
I
know. So check her out. All that stuff is going to be in the description below. Eden, thank you so much for being here.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me. This is great.